Kurt rode along the road, his gaze fixed not on their destination, but the woman beside him. Her head was down, and her eyes were red. Kurt wanted to say something, but he couldn't find the words. What do you say to a person who is destined to die? That's what the Banshee song meant, right? No changing that. The sun was rising as they reached a small town. It was just coming to life. The stores were beginning to open for the day's work. Yawning, Kurt brought their cart to a stop before an inn. Calling over a staff member, his horse and cart were brought to the stables. With that taken care of, he turned to Julia's needs. Inside the inn, he brought the young woman to a table, waved down a waitress. While she worked, the merchant turned to the demon hunter. He licked his lips and thought of what to say. Nothing sounded good. Finally, he settled on, "I didn't know that you were nobility." The moment he spoke, he regretted it. "Yeah, my father was a marquis until he was killed. There was a coup. Everything went up in flames. My brother threw me out the window before he was murdered." I'm sorry," Kurt lamented. The waitress returned with a plate of cooked potatoes. Julia picked at it, but couldn't bring a single piece to her mouth. "I'm tired. I'm heading up to our room." She left without another word or bite to eat. Kurt was left to tend to his work, restocking goods and food stores. He even spent the last coin to find a few special items, things that he honestly should have picked up a long time ago. As the sun was setting, he returned to the inn. A heavy fog was rolling in. It was cold and made the merchant shiver. It was a long day, and he was tired. As soon as he got back to the room, he would crash. Or that was his plan. Until he heard something. Yelling and screaming rippled through the town. Kurt stopped dead in his tracks as a black horse came charging down the street. On his back was a rider, except that there was no head. Black smoke rose from the severed neck. Cradled in its arms was a head that was pale and rotting, long hair whipping about as it rode forward. Doors and windows burst open at its approach. A Dullahan. That's what it was. Kurt knew that. He patted his pockets for a coin, 1 gold coin. That's what they said would protect you from a Dullahan. A coin that he didn't have. He had spent every last one. Dullahan rushed onward straight to the inn. "No, Julia!" The fat merchant ran forward as fast as his short legs would let him. It wasn't far. No, he was almost there. The screaming grew louder as he rounded the corner. Standing before the inn was the black rider, his head high hanging from his hair. The windows blew open to expose those inside. From one window on the second floor, Kurt's friend looked out. "Julia Kirkland," Dullahan spoke. "Hello, welcome back to Mythical Phylogeny. I'm your guide, Jason. It seems that a dark rider has crossed our path, the Dullahan. If the Banshee is warned of death, then the Dullahan is the bringer of it. Let's look at what sort of creature we have come to meet." Dullahan hails from Ireland and is called the Wicked Fairy, an apt name for such a grisly creature. It is a rider dressed in black on horseback. Legends speak of how a human can be turned into a Dullahan. Most include decapitation and curses, none that sound pleasant. The most notable fact is that the head and body are separated, hence the decapitation. According to legend, if it speaks your name, well, then you are dead. Instantly with no chance of survival. Yikes. That is a nasty foe right there. A final trait that is known about the Dullahan is that it holds a whip made from a human spine. So, let's start with that head. The Dullahan's head and body are a single creature. Not a symbiotic relationship, but truly a single entity. Now I have yet to have the opportunity to observe a Dullahan's digestion. But since it is alive, it needs to eat. So how does food enter the mouth and leave the body? This will answer the question of how the two communicate and operate as a single life form. First off, it doesn't matter how far apart the head and body are from each other. They could be on different continents with no problem. I have a theory. I'm curious what you think of it. What I'm thinking is that the connection between the head and body is linked by a powerful portal spell. Fairies are known for opening and creating portals to their homeland of Tir no Nog. If the Dullahan can maintain a dimensional spell between the head and body, then it could survive easily. Depending on how this portal spell works, then if you could banish the body and head to different dimensions, you could disrupt the spell and kill it. I would need a mage that specializes in quantum entanglement magic and dimensional plane shifting to prove this. Any volunteers? So what leads me to believe this? When a Dullahan approaches, all gates, doors, and windows will open. You cannot lock a door against it. This means the Dullahan has innate magic. Something that opens things. Vague, but important. This is also how the Dullahan's curse works. When they speak your name, you die. This is a straight up curse. No other explanation. This is a single target instant kill spell. The curse operates on the same system as how the doors open. The death curse opens the doors between life and death for the spoken name. The Dullahan doesn't have too many weaknesses. One major weakness is gold. Wearing gold jewelry or carrying a gold coin is supposed to shield you from a Dullahan's attack. Well, so long as you aren't the poor soul that it is after. So why does gold shield you from the attack but not the curse? Gold is a potential magical power sink. I think that gold may disrupt the portal spell between the body and the head, thus being the same thing as decapitation to it. Yet that would require direct contact. That won't stop it from speaking. So why doesn't the Dullahan just go around yelling everyone's names? First off, it needs to know a name. Somehow it needs to be told, either from eavesdropping or from a friend. Potentially, I believe that there are conditions behind when they can use the death curse. What may they be? First, I would assume it needs some preparation. Maybe the Dullahan can only use the curse when the moon is in a certain phase, or when the weather is foggy. Perhaps the Dullahan needs time to store up energy for the spell. It can only use it once every few days. There could be a dozen such conditions, but I'm yet to isolate them. My attempts at stalking one has been difficult, and they keep slipping away from me. There is one concern which has come up. What happens if a Dullahan drops his head in running water? Well, it will drown, and the Dullahan will need to find its head quickly. It will have minutes at best. If you face a Dullahan, the first issue is its death curse. Don't let it know your name, but what is the name? That is important. It is something that is mine, yet others use it. It is more heard by me than told by me. A simple riddle with the answer being a name. I bring this up for a question. Can you use a fake name? How long before the fake name becomes your real name? Would a fake name protect you from a Dullahan's death curse? No. For the answer is in the riddle. A name is what others call you, and it has meaning to you. Regardless, if the name is real or fake, it means something to you and will resonate within your soul. So if you can't fool the Dullahan, can you not hear it? Stuff your ears full of fluff and block out the sound? No. The sound and magic within will still reverberate through your skin and bones. I doubt that you could stop the spell. If you can't stop the curse from being laid upon you, can others do it? While the Dullahan rides for you, can others intercept it? Yes. The Dullahan is still killable, but no slouch in battle. They are on par with most skilled knights. Their head is a major weakness. An arrow into the brain or a powerful spell can do the trick. Have a mage steal the head with telekinesis and stab it. Dullahan are often garbed in heavy plate armor. That means stabbing it with a sword may prove difficult. Though if swords don't work, turn to fire and lightning. That will burn the skin underneath. Metal is a good conductor of heat, and makes this the perfect magic. Since the Dullahan is a fairy, it will resist much of the magical effects and make it difficult for you to cast spells. The Spine Whip is a decent range attack. Not longer than an arrow, but longer than a sword, and capable of fending off attacks in all directions. Perfect for urban combat. It will make it a difficult fight in the cities where it will appear to kill its target. The weapons must eat your handle if you can get in real close, but the Dullahan is fairly strong and can throw you around with ease. Since the Dullahan is mounted, you can't set up pipelines to catch it in a charge or force it into a narrow corridor where it will be forced to dismount. So long as the Dullahan is mounted, it will be fast, but if you can get it on foot, it will be closer to your speed. Try to restrain it with binding spells and chains. Best if you can make them from gold. That will sap the Dullahan's strength. Best if you can make your weapons from gold as well. Gold armor, gold sword, gold arrows. Yeah, this could be expensive, but what is cheaper? Death or your armor? The Dullahan is dangerous. If they can speak, you will die. Still, even without the curse, a Dullahan is a fierce foe. This is going to be a dangerous battle, why I'm willing to give the Dullahan a 9 out of 10 for difficulty. I'm sure you can see why this creature is often compared to the Grim Reaper. If you are fortunate enough to face it, I wish you the greatest of luck. The body of a Dullahan is interesting. It seems to be rotting like a corpse, making it of little use as a food source, but valued in potions. Those for preventing death or hastening it. It can also be used as a catalyst in many curses, none that I would wish upon my foes. There are spells so vile and cruel that it should be a sin to ever cast them. Next is their armor. A Dullahan's armor is fairy forged and filled with multiple magical enchantments. It is powerful, but holds a curse within it. Negative energy left over from the death of the last owner. Would you like to try it on? Can you weather the curses and take the power for yourself? A powerful priest could purge the negative energy. That would damage the enchantments that make it so powerful and valuable. You could melt it down and reforge it. What would you choose to do with it? Kurt ran through the building. "Julia! Julia!" he shouted louder and louder. A cold sweat ran down his spine. "Julia! Julia!" Step by step, he raced upwards. No, it couldn't be. He burst onto the floor and sprinted down the hall. He ran, tripped, and landed hard on his face. He tasted blood in his mouth as he got up again, and ran. "Julia! Julia!" No answer. His adrenaline flooded him as he reached the open door. "Julia! Julia!" Laying there by the open window was Julia. She was motionless. He grabbed her and shook her, constantly yelling, "Julia! Julia!" No response. He kept pushing, but nothing came of it. Julia was dead. Kurt sobbed into her cold face. There was nothing to do. She was gone. The Dullahan truly is a dangerous foe. A single breath and you are done for. This one foe that is best avoided whenever possible. What do you think, adventurers? Have you met one of these dangerous foes before? Thank you for watching. Please return next week, where we shall go for a slower pace and admire the forms of the fantasy world. Until then, safe travels.